Yeah, I think, you know, with this being a resale shop, they got the higher brand stuff, you know.
Cillian Murphy played a shivering soldier who they pick up in the middle of the sea, who begs the small boat captain. The small boats, or the small craft boats, picked up several, even thousands of British and French soldiers and brought them in. It was kind of about a community coming together, from England especially, and rescuing about, well, I guess around 500,000 soldiers or, so, or about that many. They had to do it by small craft boats. So there were small fleets of boats, mostly just civilian boats. Civilian risked their lives and made themselves soldiers immediately, kind of created an immediate militia to rescue these poor soldiers on the beach. Cillian Murphy plays one of it's called the shivering soldier, who begs the small craft captain to turn back because they pick him up in the middle of the sea because his ship is down, and he won't turn back and brings them slowly towards the beach. There are three major components in the film and how it's laid out: the mole, the beach. It's the same thing pretty much, but the mole is different than the beach, and it's English because Christopher Nolan was a literature major. He studied literature far more than most other filmmakers. But the mole basically was a causeway. Think of it as like a pier. And it held some of the water back. See, when you walked out on the beaches in Dunkirk, you walked out and the water level was probably to your shins or maybe knees for long, long ways. The boats could not just pull up to the beach and evacuate a soldier. They had to walk out on a long pier. That took 1 week to be evacuated. And the Nazis were already sniping them and dropping bombs on them and mortaring the beach. There was even some cases where the soldiers went to sleep at night. The Nazis would go up and slice their throats in the middle of the sleep while they rested. Now, it's also broken up not only in the mole, but in the sea and the air. The sea was evacuation from one of the civilian small craft boats that would pull up. Just a boat that could only hold a few men, maybe 10 at tops, you know, a civilian boat. So the civilian would kind of putter up in his boat. You'd swim out to the boat. He'd rescue you with maybe like a rope or something. There were a lot of them. Actually, there's a great line where Kenneth Branagh looks through binoculars. So he's looking through these binoculars and he goes, home. But he does a longer pause than that. But anyway, they get evacuated. And then, of course, that in the sea takes 1 day. So if you waited for the mole, it took 1 week. If you waited for the sea, it took 1 day. And if you waited for the air, it took 1 hour. There were evacuations by plane, but mostly the planes were there to defend against the Nazis' regime in the air. Principal photography for Dunkirk started in 2016. They actually shot some of it in Los Angeles. Dunkirk was distributed by Warner Brothers, and on July 13th of 2017, it premiered in London. That year, it was robbed at the Academy Award. It didn't win Best Picture, but it did win for sound mixing. It also won for film editing. It took home a little award for sound editing as well. If it did win for Best Picture, which it did not, Emma Thompson would have went up there and accepted the award with Christopher Nolan because Emma Thompson helped produce it. So one of the main reasons why the film was so beautiful was because of the music. Hans Zimmer is a magician with music. And the whole entire film is scored with his music. Like films like The Wall by Pink Floyd. We're going to talk about the airplanes and Pink Floyd, well, actually, that's probably all I'm going to say. You ever see Pink Floyd The Wall, you'll hear that sound of a Nazi airplane screaming from above. It's called Luftwaffe, and the Nazis used it. It was their aerial dive bomber attack. For those of the Nazi regime, Luftwaffe! The Stuka Junkers 87 was one of the major dive bombers used by the Nazis. It was a very popular Nazi dive bombing plane. So it would make that noise. The Junkers 87B was very tough to shoot down. It even could pull off major maneuvers in the air, just like a fighter plane today. It's a very dangerous plane and great for bombing. It's part of the Stuka. Hear it? You'd do the same. It was also known as the Junkers Ju 87. It was a very advanced plane. The Ju 87 dive bomber was created by Hans Rodal from 1936 to 1944. He was a famous Nazi pilot that invented that dive bomber that you saw in Dunkirk. Tom Hardy was used as a pilot in the film. There was minimal dialogue in the entire film. It didn't say a whole lot. He wears a mask too, so you can't tell it's really him. But he was in there, and he's flying the plane. The same guy that was in the Batman Dark Knight Rises. So he has this mask on. He's flying, checking his stuff. He's flying a Spitfire, which were pretty good in the air. Not as good as the German planes, but pretty good. He gets damaged in the very beginning, messes up his instrument, so he writes 50G with chalk on the cockpit dial where the fuel is. He's communicating with the other pilots that are flying Spitfires, making sure that he has enough fuel, because in the end, he runs out of fuel, and on the edge of a beach where he surrenders to the Nazis. But, nevertheless, he's heroic because he continues shooting down other Stuka and other dive bombers for the Nazis, because they're bombing the crap out of civilians that are trying to rescue the soldiers from France, Belgium, and England. The British soldiers are trapped. So the more fighter and bomber planes, the more Stuka that he shoots down, the more that will survive. And he does that until he runs out of fuel. His squadron, or the fleet that's in the air with him, gets shot down as well. I was poisoned in college by an enemy. Principal photography was commenced on May 23rd of 2016 in Dunkirk. So they actually shot on the beaches of Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan got the idea to make Dunkirk in the 1990s while he was with his wife, Emma Thompson. And he's on the English Channel. He got this idea to make a war film about an evacuation. The first draft of Dunkirk took Christopher Nolan 76 pages. So the story is told from three perspectives, like I said: the mole, the sea, and the air. And it shows off the superior storytelling ability that Christopher Nolan has. He's very talented in storytelling. And in many of his films, he usually has layers in the story. It's not told necessarily from one perspective, but it's sometimes told from three different perspectives. There's like three worlds happening at the same time. And that's what happens in Dunkirk. I highly recommend it. It's a 2017 film, probably the best film of that year. And it's a great film about evacuating, 300,000 or 500,000 men on the beach. Who knows the exact count? It starts off with them running in northern It was actually shot in a different area of Dunkirk. I think northern France or somewhere, Malau something. But they were in a village running and jumping over these. They're like little secure areas that they secure it with sandbags. So they sandbag their ways in. They sandbag their way in to that area of France, which is right by Dunkirk. They were in the middle of the streets shooting at the Nazis, the British and the French. It starts off with them jumping over backyard fences to try to get to the beach. But getting to the beach didn't save them, because Stuka would come and bomb them, or they'd get mortared. It shows how one soldier gets from the streets of France into Dunkirk. Another reason why Nolan wanted to approach doing the Battle of Dunkirk, which was called just Dunkirk, was because he wanted something large scale that showed the massive aspect of the evacuation. Dunkirk was not a victory, and it did not involve American forces. So I've got to talk like this the rest of the movie review. Like, you know, just I must speak this way because you don't really know if I'm English or not. What's great about Dunkirk is it's very, very exciting. Like I said, it's minimal dialogue, so it's mostly based on action. So you're watching kind of an action film, but you're also kind of in a way watching history unfold. It's almost kind of like a documentary in a way. It's also, the sound design is so incredible that I would recommend having a really good sound system when you're watching it, because the sound of the Stuka and the bombers diving. See, the thing about the Nazis is they actually wanted to scare their enemy. That's why they were so big with propaganda. And it shows in the beginning of the film, they dropped all these pamphlets. Well, they were mostly like leaflets to tell the soldiers, the British and the French, that they were surrounded and that they would be killed soon. They also wanted their enemy to know that they were under attack. So they put these little sirens by the wheels of the Stuka dive bombers, and it would dive down and it would make this high-pitched sound, like until the moment they dropped the bombs, and it would change the sound of it. Also helped the Nazi pilot on exactly where to put the bomb, because they could hear where they were in the air as well. Nobody thought of these kinds of things. Oh, by the way, did you know that most of the Nazi party were on methamphetamine? Yeah. Hitler had a lot of his soldiers taking meth, or a version of meth, to make them super soldiers. And one of the main reasons why they lost the war. They were a bunch of drug addicts. I wanted to cut in here for another film. If you ever watched the film Inglourious Bastards, there's a character named Wilhelm. He's in the basement of this area somewhere occupied by the Nazis. And there's a spy there, a spy movie star. And Wilhelm just had a baby. If you notice, right before Brad Pitt's character, the Lieutenant Aldo, before he comes down, you'll notice there's blinking of Wilhelm, of the sign of methamphetamine. People that do meth, they sometimes blink and stuff like that when they're flipping out. Because he's flipping out because he just had a kid and stuff. You got to see that one too. I covered Inglourious Bastards, but Dunkirk is way better. See, what Texas needs to do is build a big wall all the way around it, and then it needs to basically secure itself and build its military, especially its Air Force. And if the United States doesn't listen, then we'll just, take over everything and call it the United States of Texas. Right? Because the United States is already, in a way, bombing our precious state, our beautiful state. Do you know why they are? Because they're a bunch of atheists, and they hate God. And Texas loves God. We always have, since we got our independence. And let me tell you this, we've been a country before, and we can do it again. We got to build a capital and build a revenue. We've got plenty of oil. We've become independent. I know a lot of United States postal workers are going to lose their jobs, but we can make them United Texas postal workers. And we've got Carswell, which that Air Force base alone could probably take over the entire United States of America. Carswell is a powerful Air Force base that houses nuclear weapons at this very moment. The very first thing that we need to do is kick Biden out of office. He can move to Europe. Him and Kamala Harris can get a hut in, I don't know, like North Africa or something. We got to get rid of them, because if we let the enemy take over, they're going to continue killing innocent unborn babies. Free Texas, United Texas, the United States of Texas will become one Lone Star country. See, America will try to come and get you and knock on your door only because they can. If you allow America to kill you, then you'll die a coward. So rise up. See, I'm just a poor soldier for Christ. And I protect my babies. So onward, Christian soldiers. Take arms. Now is the time to cut their ears off. See, we have cleaner water. We have better food. We have a better military. We are so dangerous to the mentally challenged United States military. We could take them out in a week. Remember this, brother. Most of the United States military are scared. A lot of them have run away. Hundreds and hundreds, we're talking thousands of police officers have turned in their badges and walked away. The military of the United States is very weak right now, and they're very scared, and they're helpless. I'd say it'd take less than a week, a couple of days, and the white flags will raise at the White House. The reason I'm doing this is because the United States military and the United States have taken away my family, and I want my family back. Remember this, brother. My father, who beat me as a child, he represents the United States military. People like that need to be stopped. Have no uniform. Have no salute. Just simply do it exactly as you are. So the invisible army, the invisible people of the United States are no longer there. They're now Texas. So the invisible army and the invisible people are of Texas. Let me tell you this, brother. You're saving what's called murder. You're saving people from being murdered. There's an invisible Holocaust, and it's because unborn babies are being killed, and you're saving them. You're saving people from dying. So join this invisible military known as the people and unite as the United States of Texas. We must be invisible. We are invisible people. So no uniform, no salute, no flag. Just do what needs to be done. I had to drive 12 miles and they gave me under $4. You can believe that. And I'm in the South Lake area. All because of preference. All right. So there's no age limit to this regime, or whatever you want to call it, militia, whatever. So whoever you are out there, just remember, don't let them know you're there.